Kim Scanlon, speech-language pathologist and author of My Toddler Talks and Learning to Read as a Ball. If you have a child who is an early riser and gets out of bed way too early, allow me to introduce you to the OK to Wake alarm clock. The OK to Wake clock is a color-changing clock that teaches children to stay in bed longer so you can get some more sleep. The clock turns green, the entire clock turns green. You can't really see it right now, but this whole white part lights up green when it's okay for your child to get out of bed. And what's awesome about this concept is that you are no longer the bad guy telling your child, stay in bed, stay in bed, stay in bed. The clock is the authority now. So you can tell your child, it's not time to get out of bed yet. The clock didn't light up green. So why am I talking about the OK to Wake alarm clock? What does it have to do with toddler language development? Well, I decided to talk about this for two reasons. First, if you have a child who just gets out of bed too early, you're probably cranky because you're not getting enough sleep, and most likely the child may not be getting enough sleep. So that's the first reason. I want you to get more sleep. And the second reason why I've decided to talk about the OK to Wake alarm clock is because I have designed 3 different ways for you to use this clock to develop your toddler's language, and it can take place during your daily bedtime routine. Okay, so my first tip to share with you is very simple, but effective. Talk about the clock. When you're setting it, when you're looking at it, or when you're doing anything with the clock, I want you to use a technique called SelfTalk to narrate your actions and develop your child's awareness of language and vocabulary. Try to use the same phrase or a similar phrase maybe each night if you can remember. Something like, I'm looking at the clock. The clock will turn green. When it turns green, you get out of bed. If you use the same phrase or a similar phrase, your child is going to be starting to anticipate it after a while because it's going to be part of the routine. And when your child can anticipate what you're going to say, he or she has a better chance of saying it themselves. Okay, so my second tip is use pauses and waiting expectantly. I have a blog post about waiting expectantly and the importance of it. And in my book, My Toddler Talks, over here. And in my book, My Toddler Talks, I give many examples on how to wait expectantly. So what you want to do is once your child gets used to hearing that familiar phrase, I'm looking at the clock. When the clock turns green, you get out of bed, or something similar to that. I think I just changed my phrase too. But I used a lot of the same verbs and same nouns. So that's in the essence of the phrases were the same. And that's going to be the most important. So when you say your phrase, you want to start pausing. Like, I'm looking at the clock. When it turns green, you get out of. So when you allow those pauses after your child is familiar with the phrase, they are going to most likely try to say the word that you're waiting for them to say. And if you looked at my face, I had this very expectant look on my face. Like I wanted them to say something and I was encouraging them to say something and I was warm and friendly and wanting to really engage with the child. And my third tip for building your toddler's language while using the OK to Wake alarm clock is build their receptive language. And when I say receptive language, I talk about this in My Toddler Talks and I talk about it in many of my blog posts. Receptive language is the child's ability to understand what you're saying. So are they following directions? Are they identifying pictures in the book, pointing to objects when you reference them? That's basically, that's a general short gist of receptive language. But a lot of times children who are late talkers or language delayed, they have you have to really build up their receptive language, their understanding, and they have to have multiple exposure to new words before they can actually say it. So build up their receptive language before you expect a child to say a word like clock or bed or green. So for instance, the best way to do this too is through gestures or just through acting it out. So for instance, during your child's bedtime routine, you can talk about the clock, use the self-talk, use the pauses, use the waiting expectantly, but then act something out. So say, I'm looking at the clock. I'm going to set the clock. When the light turns green, you get out of bed. And then what you do is you just program it to go off in like 2 minutes. You go into bed, or your toddler's bed. You lay down there, and you wait for the clock to turn green. And then when the clock turns green, you get up and you say the phrase, the clock turned green, I'm getting out of bed. Okay? And then you can have your child act it out too. So I hope this has been helpful. I have a little cheat sheet that's available for download for free on my website. If you just go to mytoddlertalks.com, you'll see this and you can print it out. And there's a more detailed post talking all about what I just explained to you right now. So I hope this has been helpful. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.